2006. She's received 4 awards from the Gyeonggi Board of Education and an award from EPIC for English teaching. And she will be presenting a critique of English. So, let's do the presentation now. George, is it okay if we use your thing?
Oh,
Thing. Just
No.
plugs in here. Oh, it's yours. Oh, it's yours. Ah, never mind.
Right.
Okay. Just give it a second to load up. Is it working? There we go. Okay. So, take it away.
As Professor just pointed out how rapport is important, I'd like to build some rapport to tell you my personal background. By the way, this is me watching floating water. When you see old Korean painting, you want to see the painting from right to the left and top to the bottom, because it was the way how do we read and how do we draw. So if you want to see this painting diagonally, then you can have the same perspective as he have here. My major is teaching English, and I'm working elementary school. I mainly teach elementary school students, but at point I had taught kindergarten babies, and I often teach university students, and I teach Korean English teachers, and I had taught vice principals and principals of Gyeonggi Board, and I also co-write a Korean English textbook. My career as an English teacher was quite successful. I was happy, but it was changed. Since 2004, Gyeonggi Board had started to invite the foreign native English teachers to my classroom. That changed the ecology of my classroom. The students who loved me, they seemed to prefer the foreign teacher. The parents who showed strong respect to me, they seemed to prefer the foreign teacher. My principal seemed to give much more credit to the foreign teacher. Here we have the native. Now we can fix it. So I started to blame myself. Is this because of my English? My English is not perfect. I should study more. I must conquer the English to beat the native English teacher. I studied quite severely. Plus, the native teacher paid well than I did. They get more money than I do, which is a professional English teacher. I blamed myself, and I shortly after that I had to realize that I can never be conquer that language, because it's foreign language. Even though I understand every single word, every single sentences, there are so many contexts that I cannot follow. Surrounded by so many native teachers, and they left, and I felt marginalized. And I felt isolated, even though I thought I understand their English, but there was something that I couldn't understand. At one point, I was half jokingly, I was thinking, well, shall I dye my hair blonde and wear blue contact lens? And hello! Then do they prefer me? No, I am yellow. I was born in Korea. I am yellow. And back then, one American asked me, have you ever lived in the USA? So, no, I never been to the USA. You speak like American? So, to be honest with you, I was very, very happy. It felt like, yeah, eventually I guaranteed by the native English speaker. But, you know what, it felt quite awkward. the person who never been to the USA. How do I speak like American? So I was thinking, okay, let's get rid of extra R's and let's emphasize more T's. So instead of saying computer, I start to say computer. And then a British teacher comes to me. Oh dear, have you ever studied in the UK? No, but you have a strong UK accent. Another happy again, and another sadness. Like, what kind of language should I speak? I don't want to be seen like American. I don't want to be seen as British. Who am I? I'm a Korean English teacher. Okay, then my goal is Konglish. Do I teach Konglish to the students? No. What is it? What is it? I was lost quite for a while. And in 2006, I started my master's course in the university. I get to learn sociolinguistics, and I get the terminologies like linguistic imperialism, causes English divide. So I get to understand some more phenomena about whole of this. It was not individual's fault. It is not my fault. It is not the native teacher's fault. So we want to understand more level of this. See, English is spreading, and I'm watching the water. Yeah. Let's take a look at this footage very, very shortly.
Witness it.
Perfect. 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 I want to speak perfect English. I want to speak perfect English. I want to change my life.
So is English.
Quite intriguing, isn't it? How is it different in Korea? We have these new words in Korean. It's listed in Korean Cultural Dictionary. You can say 3 different fathers, yeah? Eagle daddy, goose daddy, penguin daddy. They are poor daddies. You've heard 기러기 아빠, right? So they are the fathers who sent their rest of the family to abroad. They want to provide the best English opportunity, education opportunity to the children. Eagle, they are rich. Eagle fathers are rich. They can visit wherever they want to visit. They can fly. They can afford a ticket. Goose fathers, once a year, once every semester, they can fly to meet the family. Penguins, poor penguins cannot fly. They can meet their families. So for a very, very long time, they often live alone to support their children's education. They earn money in Korea and transfer the money to abroad. We also have this new word, Salmon people. The people who go to abroad to get a higher education and return to Korea to get a high-paying job. Well, since when does it happen? Let's take a brief history of Korean English. End of Joseon era, Yoon Choo is the first translator of Joseon dynasty. And Min Young-ik was sent to the USA by the last king of Joseon. He had quite a long journey in the USA, and he was dominated by excellency of American culture at the point. After he returned to Korea, he strongly suggested we must embrace English education to modernize this country. Under Japanese colonization, due to the political climate, public English education was forbidden because of the, Japanese didn't like America at the time. But Korean elites continuously studied English. around the independent area, after the Korean War, USA government took the control of leadership of Korea. They put enormous fund to Korea. They sent Korean elite to the USA to get a higher education. When they return to Korea, they work as a government official. So it's not coincidence. The first president of Korea, Lee Seung-man, was a fluent English speaker, spent the majority of the time in abroad, and got married a Western wife, Western lady. So look at this. Out of this number, more than 1/3 of world population who took TOEIC was Korean. What it tells me is English functions as a cultural capital. English is not just neutral tool for communication. The terminology cultural capital means the cultural transmission of social inequality. And because English functions as capital, it's imposing English divide, which means the separation between social classes due to the English ability. So, real example. A university student who's come from a rich family, if he's smart, he can get into Harvard, University Oxford, University Cambridge, University because the family can afford it. When he returned to Korea, and he has a job interview. On the other hand, a smart university student who's come from very, very poor family, so he studied very, very hard English, and he has a quite good high score on that test, TOEIC test. The job interview in Korea, majority of the company will pick the abroad people, Yeono people. That's why we consistently produce geese father, goose father, penguin fathers. You might want to point out, but it was their choice. The penguin daddies, it was their choice. But in capitalist countries, the needing is created by societal ideology. Now, shall we go to see Japan? This essay was written by Douglas Loomis, who is a science linguist who is currently staying in Okinawa, Japan. He reflected his early stage of teaching in Japan, 1960s to 1970s. It's an American. He had a Japanese child. Whenever Japanese children sees him, it's an American. So it doesn't have to be American or British or Canadian, New Zealand. White means American. And it's not he's an American, she's an American, it's an American, right in front of a face. Look at the big nose, implying and assuming that the person cannot understand Japanese at all, Japanese language at all. Japanese adults, their English can be more defined. Where I come from, can you eat Japanese food? So, that kind of Japanese and this kind of American will meet. This is a note from the world. It's a slang. American troops staying in Japan, they refer their homeland, the USA, as the world. When they receive the letter, they say, I got a letter from the world. When they return to the USA, they say, I am returning to the world. So for them, USA means represent the world. It means universal. So they might say, oh, I'm fascinated by Japanese culture, but it's kind of a unique, authentic culture. It's not universal culture for them. So you may see like this type of stereotypical conversations like, how are you? I'm fine, thank you, and you? I'm fine too. If one person is shown as just American or just a foreigner, plus if the person has this imperialistic idea, then they can truly communicate each other. This conversation pattern shows no identity at all. It's not authentic conversation at all. Sometimes the students are even stopped if they they listen unexpected answers. So if A asks how are you, B must says I'm fine, thank you. But if B says something different, then I'm lost. That's not the English that I learned. So I just say they don't say what they want to say. They say what they learn to say. And another awfully written textbook has this kind of dialogue. We don't have drugstores like this in Japan. Like, oh, your culture is superior. Oh, in Japan we don't have this in here. Yeah, because it's the world. So I guess this kind of imperialistic concept kills authentic conversation. So it's harmful for Japanese, obviously, but it is also harmful for English native speakers as well. English has become fetishized. Then now briefly, let's take a look at this. In linguistic sense, this world can divide into three groups: inner circle, outer circle, expanding circles. Shortly, they have English as their mother tongue. They have English as their second language. For them, expanding circle, English is just one of the foreign language. But it is changing. The third group people tend to move to the second. These tend to move the first. Then, in Korea, these days university, except the English department, like French, Japanese, Chinese are still strong. But like French or Italian, these new university students, they don't give a shit, like, because English is the most useful language, right? And take a look at this shift. If a person had English as the second, but they had choose to have English as the mother tongue, what happened to their mother tongue? It can be threatening to their mother language. It can be threatening for minority languages. This is quite shocking for me. One language dies every 14 days. So very shortly, we will lose a lot of minority languages. Obviously, English is the most useful, effective language ever. But if we too much emphasize that the usefulness about the language, we lose the language. When a language dies, the culture dies. We do not know when our language dies, we don't know what we are losing. 약분불가태제, incommensurable 태제 means all languages or cultures are fundamentally incomparable. They are valuable. I am short, but it doesn't mean you are superior than I am, because I'm one unique feature as who am I. This is very, very happy scene for me. I will read this. This is Indonesia, one of island called Bhutan, had minority tribes called Tsiat Pao Baozo. They had their mother language, but it is endangered language. They have oral system to speak, communicate, but they do not have a written form of the system. So they try to adapt Hangul to preserve their endangered language. So it's their language, it's their local language. But this project failed. Because they couldn't get enough financial support and human resources. There were only one teacher, I guess, to develop the textbook and to teach the
Why
local
don't you do that
kids.
yourself?
Sorry?
Why don't you do that yourself?
If I knew that I could be one of the help for them, I'd love to do that. So if I am able to get a chance, I would fly for that. So it failed. And Esperanto, how many of you heard the language? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's man-made international language. It is originated by Polish doctor. He was criticized of a spread of English too critically, and it brings the imperialism. Magri and Hott pointed out imperialism has ended, but imperialistic ideology still remains. So he criticized this phenomenon severely, and instead of having English to use as a global language, we need to have a politically neutral language. So he created Esperanto, and it is recognized from UNESCO since 1950s, and it is quite slowly spreading. But as you can see, not all of you recognize this language. But so we don't give a shit of that? I don't think so. This is kind of one of humanitarian approach to see the language. Now, my main theme, world Englishes. Take a look at this plural. The first diaspora, they speak English natively and accept other native speaking English people, but they don't generally accept English from the second diaspora. Nowadays, we all agree that English is not Americans' language. English is not British's language. We say English is everybody's language. It's a world language. But who has the ownership? I had a personal experience. I say, the one. When the native teacher said, the one. My book from Cambridge says it's the one. Vowels and consonants, the and the, and no, that's not how I speak. It shows the ownership of the native. I'm the person who knows the language. I was born in the language. You can compete the language. So, whole percentage of the population, there are 7 countries who has English as their mother tongue. Except every other culture, every other world population, they don't have English as their mother tongue. But still, they tend to accept their mother tongue as superior language called English. In that sense, the rest of the world will remain as a learner forever. They are all learners because I know the language, it's my language. So take a look at this. If there are 2, why not 3? If there are 2, the American language and the British language, why not 3? Okay, let's welcome Canadian English and New Zealand English. If there are 3, why not a dozen? Singlish? Konglish? Where do we draw the line? What is the answer? It's not a simple question. Because the standard language is not determined by linguistic sense. It is determined by political sense. You account the huge dominance of American English in Korea and in Japan. But in Dubai, you see a huge dominance of the British English. In Liberia, in Africa, they had quite ethnic conflict between British-style English speaker and American-style English speaker. They had a tribe conflict between the variety of forms English, the usage of variety of forms English. Let's read these. Imperialistic destruction of a global ecology of languages and cultures. So what do I suggest then? Do I refuse to stop talking in English? No. I'm pro-English, by the way. I appreciate that I am able to speak English. I appreciate many foreign teachers who's working in here. But even though it seems unfair, in many of the cases it seems unfair. Let's take a look at that unfair cases here. How old are you? Are you married? Well, this takes more details. So silence for Hindu and Japanese, keeping silence, meaning yes. Yes. But in English, can be opposite. Silence can be rejecting, or silence can be, I disagree. It's opposite. I see you put on weight for Zambian. That's a compliment. They will be glad to hear that. You look great today. What a beautiful necklace for someone. Proper answer is, take it please. It means I want to have it. For Russian, do you want to read the book? If I go to Russia and tell, do you want to read the book? Hello, students number 1, then they say, no, teacher. Because for them, it's a neutral question. They can say yes or no because it's like, do you question. How old are you? This is tricky one. Are you married for Korean? If I meet a English speaker, and if I want to build some rapport, I want to know the age of the person because that's the basic component. It's the convention of Korea. That's how we talk between Korean. How old are you? Are you 30? Oh, you don't look like 30. You're like 21, 22. Are you married? Yes, I have 2 kids. Oh no, you look like single. That's how we talk. Maybe only female. But between boys it works too. How old are you? 형! 형! But in English, I personally hold that you don't want to ask those questions. That's considered rude in American, in English culture. So how do we cooperate the cross culture? See, the sphere of interculturality. This is the competence that we want to raise, intercultural communicative competence. So, for native speakers, I suggest you to say English to variety forms of English. 1, you should have your mother tongue. You should use English as your mother tongue. That's your language, obviously. So, have the language as your mother tongue. But when you want to talk to me, please have a sensitive awareness of interculturality. That's Erickson called retrospective scanning too. So, like usage of idioms. If you say yellow journalism or big 3 trees, I do not know. I do know big 3 trees, but I do not understand the idiom. I know yellow and journalism, but I don't understand. I don't know what yellow journalism means. So when you want to deal with non-English speaking people, I highly suggest you to separate the language from your mother tongue and have another tool, have another usage as a tool. It's the same for me. I currently work with a foreign teacher who's very low-level Korean speaker. When I communicate with him in Korean, I very, very carefully choose my Korean vocabulary. Because as possible as I can, I try to explain the Korean very easily, and I don't want to make him frustrated by using like too much high level Korean vocabularies, because I respect him. So this is tricky, but I can't say natives shouldn't. Some extreme linguists says that natives shouldn't use idioms at all. But I personally disagree, because it is their mother languages as well. Idioms are embedded, they're enriched cultures as well. So they should keep their lovely idioms. Standard pronunciation. T, computer or computer, it shouldn't be matter. Unless I say computer. Unless it makes communication break down, it should going on. It should keep going on. Target culture. Target culture. This is tricky. When I was middle school student, the first time I had learned that in English, my name is not Ji Hyunju. My English name is Hyunju Ji, because that's the way how they speak. Then what about Japan? I don't know how do they refer their name. What about India? Do they have the same convention as English said they have? No. What about Africans? I don't know. How do I know all countries' name rules? I don't know. In that sense, do I need to convert my name order to communicate English-speaking people? I don't think so. I always felt like I'm short. I'm a learner. And you come from a rich culture. Because this society sees having English as an asset, cultural capital. It means superior. I was stopped by all my thought, imperialistic superialism. I was stopped by the thinking for a very long time. The names. This suggests us to build a more sphere of interculturality. So we meet here, we don't want to meet like this. We want to meet like this or like this. New word, consilience, originated in Latin. Con means together. Salience means to leap, to jump. So we hold our hands and jump up together. Here's a good example. There were two English scientists. They are genetic scientists. They want to solve an issue. How does the forelimbs and hind limbs are different? Front legs of lambs, the cows and animals, they have two front legs and two back legs, and they want to differentiate the DNA of genetics, but they were stopped. But it's solved when they meet German scientists. In German language, they don't differentiate the two words. So simply for German, the legs are the same. It's just the legs. So the English scientists could solve the problem to get to know German, because language determines the thinking. If you stuck in one language, you think in one language. It's like having a window. If I'm Korean monolingual, I see the world in Korean's perspective. If I speak English, then I have another window to see the world. I see my name is 지현주 in Korean aspects. I also see my name is 현주지 in English speakers' perspective as well. This issue, this linguistic imperialism, this problem of connection between language and power will remain as a dilemma until the imbalance of power is solved. And the problem will is solved soon? No. The problem will remain. The power, this is a fundamental factor as a human being. The imbalance of power will remain. So, via English, we learn the other, the outside perspective, thus functions as a mirror with which we see ourselves. Yeah, old-fashioned Korean style. He is a fond of modern Korean history and he's a fond of modern Korean linguistics. They contributed under Japanese colonization, they contributed to this nation a lot. They both studied English very, very hard. Shin-tae studied English by himself. He read Rome, the history of Rome by himself. And after that, he could have another perspective to see Korean history.
As far as I know, Shin-tae, he hired a tutor from who hired a person who studied in USA.
Ah.
Yeah. I heard the news from EBS.
Ah, good to know that. I didn't know that. Thank you. Okay, he hired a native English speaker so he could run the history of Rome. And he, I guess, presumably he hired another teacher. He studied different languages. He studied English, Japanese, and Chinese. And after that, he could establish the fundamental basis of Korean linguistics. That's why we need English as a Korean, nationalistic Korean of me. Do I against Korean? Do I against the spread of English? No. No. It enriches me. But even though I still want to say I am ultimately free in my mother tongue. That's my limitation. But that is my identity. I want to see, if I go to the World Conference, I want to see Indian English speaker deliver his message in Indian accent, a Korean speaker delivers his message in Korean accent, a British speaker delivers his message in British accent. Isn't it more beautiful? I believe so. So for native teachers, I suggest you to see English as two different languages. One, your mother tongue, and the other is a communication tool for non-English native speaker. If there is a communication breakdown, you want to know, is that originated by me or the other? If I say, are you married? And if you replied, it's rude, you have to learn, then communication breakdown. I don't want to continue the conversation with a person. But if you say that, oh, this is really useful to know, most of English speaking people, they can be offended by these questions. Then I can say, oh, is it quite opposite? Because in Korean culture, we want to know. We are freely ask that. And then rapport. And then we can eventually start to build a rapport. Because we are not stalked by linguistic imperialism there. For Korean teachers, this is kind of a self-confession that I struggle with English and I conquered English. Then it's painful and it's hurtful that I realized that I can't conquer the English. Actually, I cannot conquer. Nobody actually conquer any foreign languages unless they were born in the culture. So I suggest you mind your own language and use the language, especially when you deal with very, very young learners. Few days ago, Seocheon elementary school students, this is funny, I played British movie to them called Happy Holiday in Korean. Its English title is What Did We Do on Our Holidays? But anyways, it was British. They all said, like, watch the telly stuff, and they said, hey, look at them, Americans, kids are that smart. One, they are not American. Two, Americans are smarter than they are. So I said, do you think Americans are smarter than you? I said, of course, why? Of course, why? You want to answer me back? They said, because they speak English. And yesterday I was wrapping up this presentation and Naver had this commercial. 30분 만에 미국인 되는 법. So in 3 minutes, you can be an American in 3 minutes. So we live in this context. When you deal with the young learners, raise their awareness. It can be delivered imperialistically for them. They always ask me, do you love America? Do you love English? Do I have to love America? So let's separate from that idea, this idea, and bring it up to this level. They should mind their language. So then again, I am ultimately free in my mother tongue. So I still feel the barrier. So I have about 5 minutes to left. Do you have any questions or disagreement? I'm welcome to listen disagreement from you. No? What's this? How can I accept this?
Can I ask you a
Sure,
personal question?
sure, personal question.
Your pronunciation is British style, and in Korea we learn by American style. You know, how do the parents react to your pronunciation?
They don't like my pronunciation anyways because first of all I am Korean. And they don't give me enough credit to, like, Jiyeon teacher shouldn't be a model of English pronunciation because I'm not native teacher. So if I mimic American accent severely, they may prefer my English more, but it's still prefer compared to this style. So no matter I speak English accent or British English, it's still marginalized for me.
Because a lot of my acquaintances, she studied in England for many years, and she returned to Korea and got a job. She taught little students, and their parents and teachers, they really hated that language. So she tried to change her pronunciation to American style. It's very tough.
Yeah, it's quite a heavy topic. So earlier I pointed out white people is English. Then there are so many not white people who has English as a mother tongue. It's a discrimination for them too. Any other? Do you generally disagree? Or I made myself too clear, so there is nothing to ask about? Oh, the native teachers are offended by my presentation? So first, Professor, what do you think?
I think there's a lot more to the situation than is presented here. You presented a lot of good points, but the situation is complex, and it's not necessarily natives versus non-natives. I think this is a problem that's being placed on each other as native versus non-native, where that doesn't solve the problem. The problem is educated educating native speakers and non-native speakers to understand each other in the context. Context is everything. So idioms and slang are useful within a native speaking context. If you go to another country, those are important. In Korea, you're in an EFL context. That's something that you shouldn't be using. So it's more about contextual awareness, contextual understanding. There's many layers to this,
Well, of course.
but it's
Of course.
more having people to work together and educating the public. Because this comes from parents and students, as you're saying. Educating them for the right mindset towards English is where this starts. That's the starting point, I think.
Yeah, and my point is my classroom can be a starting point then again. So how can I raise my students? Like what kind of Korean elites there will be? That's my stance point two.
I wonder what is to stop the language over the course of 100, 200 years if it's used by so many different countries around the world. And if we take the approach that the standard is not the standard set by the US or the standard set by the UK, what keeps the language somewhat unified to actually use it as a global communication tool? Because because English has changed over time, obviously. I mean, English is a combination of many languages itself. But if we say the Singaporean English and we start accepting, I mean, because there's lots of great Konglish words we could accept in English. You know, there's concepts that just don't exist in English, but the words are handy. And it'd be nice to be able to write aircon instead of air conditioner, right, for simplicity's sake. But if we start doing that, and there's 170, 180 countries on Earth, and as English spreads and gets used more and more and more, what is to keep the language unified and useful versus just splintering into a million different types where there is no other, I mean, yeah, accents are one thing, but vocabulary and even grammar structures and stuff could suddenly, not suddenly, but over a course of decades, really split apart more than it already has with the distinction between American and British English. And I wonder what stops that from
I
happening.
think I can say two different things. First of all, the aim, new paradigm is interculturally, comfortably understandable English. It's not British English, it's not American English, it's not Konglish, obviously. Comfortably understandable competence. That's the aim that we want to pursue. So it doesn't have, we don't want to say this is English, so is this good and bad. If those English is comfortably intelligently understandable, then it should be accepted as one variation of English.
I think that competence breaks down over time. So what is competent and clear now, if you continually accept the evolving Englishes, that margin of comfort widens to a point where it fractures and you have something like almost a new language, and then you're gonna have to build bridges between that language and the English of another country. So I think holding on to two staple Englishes, like the American with Webster's Collins and the British with Oxford, Cambridge English, then you're at least anchored somewhere and you're not totally drifting apart.
If I can add one more, as you mentioned earlier, aircon versus air conditioner. If we want to celebrate diversity, unless it causes communication breakdown, then why not? Isn't it fun to learn in Korea? They refer air conditioner as aircon. It's simple.
But the problem I would have with that is if you said aircon to anybody who hasn't been to Korea, unless you're within a specific context where you can point and say or use the original English vocabulary word air conditioner, my grandfather would have no idea what an aircon is.
So the baseline is the differentiation should not cause communication breakdown. And how do we see if we are talk successfully or not is determined by raising the sphere of interculturality. if there is a communication breakdown, then we want to know why is it? Why the person couldn't understand my Korean, or why the person couldn't understand my English? Is it because of the word condition, or what is it? So retrospective scanning is required in the sense, I think.
One thing, I think the communication breakdown, this isn't necessarily just like a future possible hypothetical. Like a classic example in the US that people complain about all the time is when they call in to get tech support. A lot of the tech support has been outsourced to India. And Americans always complain that when they get an Indian tech support person, they have no idea what they're saying. It's incredibly hard. And that's mostly just pronunciation differences. And if you're, now obviously if you are in a face-to-face context, communication gets a little easier, but on a phone or something, which is a lot of global business, it can get very tricky, I think.
I think I have a good response for that one. What I think is needed isn't just the focus of studying English as the language for non-native speakers, etc. I think native speakers, honestly, need to start to be exposed to those different varieties.
Oh,
I mean,
certainly.
I'm from Vancouver, and I can understand hundreds of different dialects of this. I don't complain when I get a call someone from overseas, but the people who haven't been exposed to that, haven't been brought up with that kind of diversity or understanding of diversity in the language, they're the ones that complain like, that's not American.
Oh, yeah.
Speak American, not speak English, speak American. It's a little different, so I think exposure is important for native speakers as well.
Yeah, I heard this we have to accept the different pronunciation. When we take a TOEIC test, yes, we can hear Indian pronunciation, not only American style, British style, and mixed so much. So we should just accept the diversity these days.
Yes, thank you. So I think this leads to more controversial topics, but I guess I say goodbye here and see you next time maybe. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation. And thank you all for coming and staying warm in this cold classroom. I wish you all a very happy Halloween. Enjoy candy. And yes, if we could, we'd like to get a group picture together.